The crisp Orlando air held a hint of chlorine and the promise of another scorching Florida day. At SeaWorld Orlando, the sun was just beginning to peek over the stadium walls, casting long shadows across the vast, shimmering pools. It was early, before the throngs of tourists descended, transforming the park into a buzzing hive of excitement and shrieks. For Amber Collins, these pre-dawn hours were sacred. They were a quiet communion with the creatures she dedicated her life to, a moment of peace before the performance. She arrived at the Orca Stadium, the familiar scent of salt water and fish greeting her like an old friend. The colossal steel gates loomed before her, dwarfing her small frame as she swiped her ID badge and entered the backstage area. The air here was thick with anticipation, the low hum of machinery a constant reminder of the complex ecosystem that supported these magnificent animals. Her first stop was the observation deck overlooking the main pool. The water, usually a vibrant turquoise under the Florida sun, was now a deep, fathomless blue, reflecting the pre-dawn sky like a liquid mirror. Amber scanned the surface, her eyes searching for a familiar silhouette. There he was, Vespa, the park's largest and arguably most intelligent orca, was a creature of immense power and grace. He was more than just an animal to Amber. He was a partner, a confidant, a being she had spent years understanding and connecting with. Their bond, forged through countless hours of training and interaction, was the cornerstone of the entire Orca encounter show. Amber descended to the water's edge, the concrete cool beneath her bare feet. She donned her wetsuit, the neoprene clinging to her skin like a second layer. It smelled of fish, chlorine, and the faint residue of countless training sessions. It was the scent of her life, her passion. She secured the microphone headset, a crucial piece of equipment that allowed her to communicate with both the audience and her fellow trainers. "Morning, Vespa," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. As if on cue, Vespa surfaced, his massive head breaking the water with barely a ripple. He regarded her with his intelligent, dark eyes, a silent acknowledgement of her presence. Amber reached for a bucket filled with glistening herring, the orca's favorite treat. "Ready to work?" she asked, her voice gentle and encouraging. Vespa responded with a soft vocalization, a low, rumbling sound that resonated deep within Amber's chest. It was a sound she understood implicitly, a sign of his eagerness to begin the day. The morning routine began, a series of carefully choreographed exercises designed to stimulate Vespa both physically and mentally. Amber guided him through each movement with precise hand signals and verbal cues, their communication seamless and intuitive. The colossal orca responded with remarkable agility and precision, his immense body moving through the water with surprising grace. They practiced breaches, leaps, and synchronized swims, their movements perfectly synchronized. The early morning light danced on the water's surface, creating a breathtaking spectacle of power and beauty. Amber felt a surge of pride and satisfaction as she witnessed Vespa's flawless execution of each routine. But beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect partnership, a subtle tension lingered. Amber had noticed a slight change in Vespa's behavior in recent days. A fleeting moment of hesitation during a familiar cue, a subtle shift in his gaze, a barely perceptible increase in his restlessness. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but something felt different. She had documented these observations in her training log, meticulously recording every detail, no matter how insignificant it seemed. It was crucial to be vigilant, to anticipate any potential changes in Vespa's behavior. Safety was paramount, not just for herself, but for the animal as well. During a brief break, Amber reviewed the day's schedule with her fellow trainers. They discussed the planned routines, the crowd expectations, and any potential challenges that might arise. Communication was key, a constant flow of information ensuring everyone was on the same page. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the park began to awaken. The distant chatter of arriving guests filled the air, a reminder that the show was about to begin. Amber took a deep breath, steeling herself for the performance ahead. She glanced at Vesper, his dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that both captivated and unnerved her. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget," she whispered, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The day, like any other, was about to begin, but unbeknownst to Amber, this day would be unlike any other she had ever experienced. A day that would forever alter the course of her life and the future of SeaWorld Orlando. The routine was familiar, the connection seemed strong, but the ocean, as always, held secrets beneath its deceptively calm surface. And today, those secrets would rise to the surface with devastating consequences. The whistles, the piercing, desperate shrieks that cut through the manufactured joy of SeaWorld Orlando. Like a shard of glass. That's what many remember most. One second, the crowd was cheering. The next, a cacophony of alarms signaled that something was terribly, irrevocably wrong. Amber Collins, a seasoned orca trainer with over a decade of experience, had vanished. Beneath the surface, pulled under by Tilikum, the park's largest and most infamous killer whale, panic erupted. The initial confusion, the awkward laughter of those who thought it was a poorly executed trick, quickly dissolved into horrified silence. The water, once a stage for graceful displays, became a murky, terrifying canvas. What unfolded beneath? The surface was a desperate struggle for survival, unseen by the horrified eyes above. Tilikum, a creature of immense power and complex, perhaps unknowable, motivations, held Amber captive. He wasn't thrashing wildly. There was no frantic display of aggression. Instead, according to eyewitness accounts and subsequent investigations, his grip was calculated, almost methodical. Imagine the disorientation, the sudden plunge into cold, murky water, the pressure building in your ears, the world reduced to a swirling vortex of bubbles, and the immense, inescapable presence of a 12,500-pound orca. Amber, a highly trained professional, would have immediately initiated emergency protocols, signals, subtle body language, attempts to break free years of training. Kicking in despite the overwhelming fear, she would have known the standard release commands, the specific hand gestures and body postures, designed to communicate with Tilikum. But on this day, those cues were met with silence, or worse, with a tightening of his grip. He held her, not with teeth, but with his massive pectoral fins, pinning her against his body. Reports from the subsequent investigation suggest that Tilikum was not actively hunting Amber. Instead, he seemed to be exhibiting a behavior known as possession, a way for orcas to assert dominance and control. But the distinction mattered little to Amber, struggling for air, her lungs burning with each passing second. The other trainers, witnessing the unfolding horror from the poolside, reacted swiftly. Emergency procedures were activated. Fish were thrown into the water, a desperate attempt to distract Tilikum. Underwater alarms, designed to draw the orca's attention, blared through the pool. But Tilikum remained focused on Amber, his dark eyes seemingly oblivious to the chaos around him. Eyewitness accounts paint a harrowing picture. Glimpses of Amber surfacing briefly, gasping for air, only to be pulled back under her arms reaching towards the platform, a desperate plea for help that went unanswered. The sheer futility of her struggle against the immense power of the orca. The attack lasted for approximately 45 minutes. 45 minutes of unimaginable terror of a life hanging precariously in the balance. 45 minutes that would forever change the landscape of marine park entertainment. During those agonizing minutes, Amber fought with the tenacity of a survivor. She attempted to pry herself loose, kicking and pushing against Tilikum's immense body, but her efforts were futile. His grip was too strong, his size too overwhelming. As time wore on, Amber's movements became weaker, her struggles less frequent. The fight began to drain from her body, replaced by a chilling resignation. The hope that had fueled her initial resistance began to fade, replaced by the agonizing realization that rescue was unlikely. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Tilikum released Amber. Her lifeless body floated to the surface, a stark and tragic contrast to the vibrant, energetic trainer she had been just moments before. The scene that followed was one of utter devastation. The trainers, heartbroken and traumatized, pulled Amber from the water and began CPR, desperately clinging to the hope that they could somehow bring her back. But it was too late. Amber Collins was gone. The silence that descended upon SeaWorld Orlando was deafening, broken only by the sobs of those who witnessed the tragedy. The cheers and laughter, the carefully orchestrated spectacle, had been replaced by a profound sense of loss and a chilling reminder of the unpredictable nature of these magnificent creatures. The dream was over. Now reality of something going wrong, as it did, had gone terribly, terribly wrong. The immediate aftermath of Amber Collins' death was chaotic. SeaWorld Orlando, usually a beacon of manufactured joy, became ground zero for grief, anger, and intense scrutiny. The initial public reaction was a mixture of shock and disbelief. How could something so meticulously orchestrated, so seemingly safe, turn so tragically wrong? The news spread like wildfire, fueled by social media and a 24-hour news cycle hungry for answers. Graphic images and videos taken by park attendees flooded the internet, painting a horrifying picture of Amber's final moments. The cheerful spectacle that was once a highlight of family vacations became a symbol of corporate negligence and the inherent dangers of keeping killer whales in captivity. A wave of outrage washed over sea. Protests erupted outside the park gates, with animal rights activists demanding the immediate release of all orcas into sanctuaries. The hashtag Justice for Amber trended worldwide, becoming a rallying cry for change within the marine park industry. Petitions circulated, calling for stricter regulations, improved trainer safety measures, and an end to orca breeding programs. The chorus of disapproval wasn't just from activist groups either. Former SeaWorld trainers began to speak out, anonymously at first. Then, with increasing boldness, they painted a disturbing picture of a company prioritizing profit over safety, where concerns about whale behavior were often dismissed or downplayed to maintain the illusion of control. They spoke of the immense pressure to perform, the inadequate training, and the inherent risks of working in such close proximity to powerful, unpredictable animals. These accounts, often filled with personal anecdotes and chilling near misses, added fuel to the already raging fire. Simultaneously, multiple investigations were launched. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, immediately began its own inquiry, focusing on SeaWorld safety protocols and whether they met legal requirements. The investigation delved into the park's training methods, emergency procedures, and the history of incidents involving orcas. Evidence was gathered, witnesses were interviewed, and a thorough review of SeaWorld's safety record was conducted. Alongside OSHA, the National Marine Fisheries Service, NMFs, initiated its own review, examining the legality of SeaWorld's permits to house and display orcas. This investigation scrutinized the park's compliance with the Marine Mammal Protection Act and assessed the potential impact of captivity on the whales' well-being. These investigations were not just bureaucratic exercises, they were high battles that would determine the future of SeaWorld and the captive orca industry as a whole. The findings would shape public opinion, influence legal decisions, and ultimately determine whether SeaWorld could continue operating in its current form. The impact of Amber's death extended far beyond the immediate legal and regulatory consequences. It sparked a fundamental shift in public perception of orcas in captivity. The once beloved creatures, portrayed as friendly performers, were now seen as complex, intelligent animals suffering from the psychological and physical stresses of life in confined tanks. Documentaries like Blackfish, released shortly after Amber's death, played a significant role in shaping this evolving narrative. The film presented a compelling case against keeping orcas in captivity, highlighting the unnatural conditions, the truncated lifespans, and the documented instances of aggression towards trainers. Blackfish became a cultural phenomenon, further galvanizing public opposition to SeaWorld and prompting boycotts that significantly impacted the park's attendance and revenue. The company responded with a massive public relations campaign, attempting to refute the claims made in Blackfish and defend its animal care practices. SeaWorld launched initiatives focused on conservation and rescue efforts, highlighting its commitment to marine animal welfare. But the damage was done. The image of SeaWorld as a family-friendly entertainment destination was irrevocably tarnished. In the years following Amber's death, SeaWorld underwent a series of significant changes. The company phased out its orca shows, replacing them with more educational presentations focused on the whale's natural behaviors. It also pledged to end its orca breeding program, marking a historic shift in its approach to animal care. While these changes were welcomed by many, some critics argued that they were too little, too late, and that SeaWorld should completely abandon its orca captivity program. Amber Collins' death became a watershed moment, not only for SeaWorld, but for the entire marine park industry. It forced a long overdue reckoning with the ethical implications of keeping intelligent, social animals in captivity for human entertainment. Her legacy lives on through the ongoing efforts to improve trainer safety, advocate for marine animal welfare, and educate the public about the complexities of orca behavior. While the joy and wonder of seeing these magnificent creatures up close may remain, it now comes with a somber understanding of the sacrifices made and the profound questions raised by their lives behind glass walls. The ripples of that fateful day continue to spread, shaping our understanding of the relationship between humans and the wild, one wave at a time.